السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. How's everyone doing?
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Inshallah, good to hear from Abu Bakr. How are you?
الحمد لله شيخ. أيوه.
Alhamdulillah. 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 بخير. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, the days of Eid were blessed, mashallah. Yasin, يبدي لكم
Alhamdulillah, good Sheikh.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Last class Eid night anala attend panna Sheikh.
No problem. That's why I gave, for that class, there was an excuse. Right?
Yes, Sheikh.
But we had some students who, mashallah, they don't want to stop even for Eid. So we continued. How was the quiz for everyone? I think we definitely got from Abu Bakr. I think I already graded yours, Abu Bakr. Then we had from, I think we got from Tawfiq, right?
Try to submit.
Yasin, yeah, I was going to say, if Yasin didn't submit, something's wrong. Maybe he's still on 8 break. MashaAllah. All right. In any case, let me know if you have any questions. Maybe we'll go over it next week. I've graded most of the ones who submitted on time. And I'll grade the ones that are late this week, inshallah. As for the ones that come very late, it's past the daruri time. So now you're in qada, Maybe the qada is accepted, maybe it's not. Of course, Allah is more merciful. So, inshallah, He accepts. But as for in this class, it can't be as merciful. Or ever, really. Allah. All right. Go ahead and get started, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wasallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله صلاة تخرجنا بها من ظلمات الوهم تكرمنا بها من الفهم وتوضع بها عما يشكل حتى يفهم أنك تعلم ولا نعلم وأنت علام الغيوب ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Still a little bit of a cough, so forgive the interruptions, but we cannot stop the durus, inshallah. So we'll dive in right away. Today we are on zakat al-ayn. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال المصنف رحمه الله. Can somebody read the lines? Actually, maybe Abu Bakr. I mean, barakallahu feek. Can you read the lines? 186, 189.
Actually traveling. Not able.
Oh, you're traveling. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. No mercy for the teacher, huh? Okay. All right. Bismillah. Read the lines. 186. So he says خمسة أوسق نصاب في الماء في فضة قل 200 درهما 20 دينارا نصاب في الذهب ربع العشر فيهما وجه. Last time we gave an introduction to zakat and talked about zakat and agriculture. This time we're going to talk about perhaps the most important kind of zakat in the modern age for most people. And that is zakat on currency. Zakat on currency. Or on money. It's money, right? And As we said, the definition of zakah is إخراج مال مخصوص إخراج جزء مخصوص إخراج جزء مخصوص مال مخصوص بلغ نصابا مستحقه إن تم ملكه وحول غير المعدن وحرف. Basically, it's extracting or paying a portion of wealth. Extracting or paying. إخراج technically means extracting. The reason they don't say paying is because actually somebody else could extract the zakat for you or pay the zakat for you. This paying has a connotation of that somebody is paying for themselves. So the hakim, if you had a hakim, can forcibly seize your wealth and pay your zakat. So it's إخراج المال المخصوص, extracting a portion of the wealth. إخراج جزء مخصوص, from specific kinds of wealth. So again, you don't pay zakat on every kind of wealth. And we talked about the hikmah of that last time. That the kinds of wealth that Allah prescribes zakat on are the ones that are storable, growable, transferable, right? And that's why there's no zakat on a house, for example, right? Because a house is not really transferable. And there's no zakat on apples, because apples aren't really storable. You're going to come back into your apple. I mean, this is before the 8 days of the fridge, right? And even in the days of the fridge, if you're moving an apple from place to place, not it could go bad. Okay. So that is the definition of zakah: extracting a portion of wealth from specific kinds of wealth to people who deserve it. Extracting a portion of wealth from specific kinds of wealth to people who deserve it. We'll talk about people who deserve it at the end, inshallah. So hold your questions on that. Any questions so far? Just open the chat. See the old discussions about pistachios. Yeah, okay. All right, we're all good. Okay. Okay, so as we said, the way to think about zakat in your mind is technically it's not even your wealth. Rather, it is wealth destined for other people. Don't try to, weasel your way out of it, right? Understand that it is a realization of Allah's qadr. And by paying zakat, you are a manifestation of Allah's qadr. How are you manifesting Allah's qadr? Well, Allah is the one that gives every piece of wealth, every dollar in your bank account, or euro, or rupee, or sorry, I don't know the Nigerian currency, tawfiq. Is it like naira or something like this? But yeah, regardless, you can tell me what the currency is in Nigeria. But every rupee, because it's so little, rupee is so little compared to a dollar, right? But even every rupee, Allah specified where that would go and when it would come to your bank account and when it would go to someone else's bank account. The rizq of Allah is maqdur. And that's why one of the salihin, he wanted to test the people and see from whom amongst these people were salihin as well. So he gathered some money and he went outside and he started handing out money. He started what? He started handing out money, literal free money. What would you do if you went outside and you saw somebody giving out free money? You'd say shukran, or if you're nice, or if you're like in a lot of Muslim countries, or even Muslims outside of Muslim countries, you just jump on the person, right? See people on Black Friday. It's not even free. They're jumping people. So he's giving out free money. As he was giving out the free money, he said, "Khudh la lak. Khudh la lak. Take, not for you. Take, not for you." What does that mean? It's kind of cryptic. But what he was saying is that take, and this thing does not belong to you. This wealth doesn't belong to you, it belongs to Allah. Okay? So he's saying, take this money and it belongs to Allah. A lot of people didn't get it. They just kept taking the money. Until one person came along and he said, Hat la mink. Hat la mink. He said, give, not from you. Give, not from you. Because as he was also from the Salihin and the Awliya, or even just a righteous person, maybe he didn't reach the level of wilayah, but he had this understanding, it's ma'rif, that we can all have, right? Even if we also did not reach the level of wilayah. He said, give, not from you. This is not your money, okay? And he understood that, just like he was taking, and it was not his money. In reality, it's all the money of Allah. So zakat is a manifestation of Allah's decree in moving wealth. And by paying your zakah, you are submitting to Allah's decree. Okay. Now, in this dars, I'm going to focus more on the practical application, because as I said, the zakat and money is the most important. More so on the nas of the text, because the text of Ibn Ashir is very small on the zakat and money, even though for us it's the most important. Whereas the one on the livestock, which I don't know, does anyone here a farmer? Anyone here have animals at home?
Yeah.
Abu Bakr has animals. Okay. How many animals do you have? What animals?
Had a lot of goats at one point. Had about 80 goats at one point, but right now I don't have that many, and right now I end up selling them. Only like I have.
Okay. Well, then it's important for you. Maybe you'll get back into it. MashaAllah, 80 goats. Gotta invite us sometime over for the goat milk. I remember in Mauritania, one of the greatest treats was tasting the real cow milk. It would be literally udder to cup, you know? You just go take your little bucket and they would fill it straight from the cow's udder for you. And it's amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. In any case, all I'm saying is that Ibn Ashir, he spends about 20 lines talking about that, only 4 lines talking about zakat and money. So we're going to try to make this a little more practical, give more detail where Ibn Ashir didn't, and maybe not delve too much into the masala that Ibn Ashir is mentioning, because I'm focusing on the modern, salaried, mostly salaried, maybe a business owner, worker, okay? I think that fits most of the people. So the first thing to note is that as a Maliki, you may hear, especially if you're in other Maliki circles, you may hear the opinion that zakat on modern currencies is not obligatory. Anyone heard that before? Zakat on modern currencies is not obligatory. Okay, Sister Jessica, inshallah. Because she's in many of the Maliki circles, right? However, the stronger opinion is that it is obligatory. And there are some great ulama that said it's not obligatory. And even among my teachers, great ulama, who still say it's not obligatory. But I would defer with them, because other great ulama, and the majority of them, the vast majority, say that it is obligatory on modern currencies, okay? And I won't delve too much into why, and we can talk about that in later levels, okay? Now, when it comes to zakat on money, as we said, or zakat in general, there's 2 numbers that are always important. 2 numbers that are always important. What are they? 2 numbers in zakat. nisab, and I know that's a typo. I know there's a typo. That was a very good typo, though. Gold and silver nisa. Sounds like a nisa not seeing the use in Texas. But nisab is one of them, and the amount you pay, right? Amount you pay. You could say the lunar year is also something, but in general, that does not differ. It's either you wait the lunar year or you don't, or different things like that. But the amount you pay, that differs, right? So when it comes to zakat on money, I'm talking about money, dollars, okay? We're going to start with gold and silver coins because that is the asl. That's the asl in Islamic finance. It's gold and silver coins. To the point, actually, that Ibn Khaldun and his student, Ibn Khaldun was a great faqih. People think of him just as a historian. No, he was actually the Qadi al-Qudat here in Egypt. Qadi al-Qudat in Egypt. And he was a great diplomat. Negotiated with Timur to preserve the peace between the Mamluks and the Timurids. But in any case, he said that it's not, and him and the student, who was also an economist at Maqrizi, said it's not, they said using other currencies is very, very disliked, if not haram. Besides gold and silver. You can see if anyone, I'll drop some sociology. It's also important that people are politically, economically aware, right? That you're not just students stuck in Ibn Ashir. As great as Ibn Ashir is, you have to be also economically aware. Go look into how much modern currencies have led to so many problems and the stealing of money in the modern world or in the Muslim world, right? To the point that some people say that the reason the Ottoman Khilafah was destroyed is because of modern money. Okay, so in any case, that's another discussion. The asl is gold and silver coins. So what is the nisab in gold and silver coins? The nisab is 20 gold coins, 20 gold coins, or 200 silver coins. 20 gold coins or 200 silver coins. Or the combination of both at the 1 to 10 exchange rate. So for example, if you had 10 gold coins and 100 silver coins, you have metta nisab. Similarly, if you have 150 silver coins and 5 gold coins, have you met the nisab?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And this is what Ibn Ashir mentions on line number 204. Line number 204. Open to line number 204. I'm going to go a little bit out of order just to bring together everything. Talking about zakat and money. Because again, that's the most important for us. He says on line number 204, وَيَحْصُلُ النِّصَابُ مِنْ سَنْفَيْنِ كَذَهَبٍ وَفِضَّةٍ مِنْ عَيْنِ. Nisab may be reached by putting together two kinds of zakatable items. Like gold and silver in the case of money. Okay? Nisab can be made up of different currencies. All right? And the asl is that the currencies are only gold and silver. Now, once you hit the nisab, or let's talk about that after. As you said, the nisab is like the minimum zakat bracket, right? For those of you who know tax brackets, it's like the minimum tax bracket. And in fact, there's only one tax bracket when it comes to zakat money. Okay. Now, what about today's currencies? I know that's a question everyone's waiting for. What about today's currencies? For today's currencies, obviously, we have to see the price of gold and silver today to see what would be the zakat on that money. Okay? So, when looking at this, what you notice, let me share my screen. First thing I'll say is that, everyone see my screen? The first thing I'll say is that how much is 20 gold coins and how much is 200 silver dirhams or silver coins? Each gold coin is weighed to be 4.25 grams of gold. 4.25 grams of gold. So 20 times 4.25. Who's good at math? Yeah, see in your thumbnail, you should be good at math. 20 times 4.25. I know your dad made you do the multiplication tables.
No, sir, I'm very poor.
Okay. Khayr, inshallah. Kabir, good at math, yes. Inshallah, that's your dad for glad for you. Tamam. Ala kulli hal. As you know, in fiqh, you have to know a certain level of math, right? And it'll be very important in Miran. And in the Islamic tradition, disassociate that from the stereotypes of the secular tradition. Because in the Islamic tradition, the greatest fuqaha and the greatest scholars, most of them came from a poor background. In fact, in the early generations, most of them were even freed slaves, right? Most of them were even freed slaves. And they were brilliant in many sciences, including math. Okay. One of my shuyukh who's older, Sheikh Al-Damin, rahimahullah, passed away. He had ijazat in math. Okay. So inshallah, a minimum level math competence is good. So 20 times 4.25 is 85. How did we get it? Well, 20 times 4 is 80. 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20, 80. And 20 times 0.25 is basically what is a quarter of 20? What is a quarter of 20? Which is 5. There's 4 5s and 20. So that's 85. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So now, astaghfirullah. So, okay. And then silver. Silver is about 3 grams per coin. This one should be easy. 200 times 3 is what?
100 grams.
600, right? I think that's what I heard. So now let me present to you the problem, okay? If you take 600 grams of silver, see what's the value? Just go to the website. Yeah, so 600 grams of silver is worth $700, okay? Or 600 euros or whatever, 500 pounds, right? Everyone see that? 600 grams of silver is $700. Let's take 85 grams of gold. Same website. 85 grams of gold is $9,374. You see that? So now do you see the issue? When we say the nisab now in modern currency, what is it? Is it $700? Or is it $9,374? Very big difference. So some scholars said it is $9,374. And other scholars said it is $700. Basically, some scholars said go by the nisab of gold. And other scholars said go by the nisab of silver. And Sheikh Maghili, which I find his opinion quite convincing in my small and limited knowledge, that you actually combine both. What do you mean combine both? Remember how we said we can combine if you have 10 grams of gold and 100 grams of silver? Is it zakatable or not? Is it zakatable? 10 grams of gold and 100 grams of silver, is it zakatable?
Yes.
Yes, it is, right? Everyone get that? Amin, Haitham, Jessica, Kabir, Yassine, Bona, Tawfiq. All right. So it is zakatable, right? So he said that's what you do. You mix half and half. So you say 10 grams of gold, how much is that? Sorry, not 10 grams. 10 dinars, 10 gold coins. 10 times 4.25 is 42.5, right? 4,687. And half of this is just 300. So he said the nisab is $350 plus $4,687. Okay? And this way you balance between the right of the poor, the very poor, because if you said the nisab is $10,000, a lot of people wouldn't pay zakat, right? A lot of people wouldn't pay zakat unless you're in Silicon Valley, and you're very easy to pay zakat, right? Unless you're in New York, Paris, or Dubai, if you're paying zakat. But a lot of people, if you said $10,000, they wouldn't be paying zakat. On the other hand, if you said the nisab is $600, even somebody who's relatively very poor, if you only have $600 in a bank account, and you need to buy a house, you need to get married, it's nothing. It's nothing. You have to pay zakat on that, and then you won't get anywhere. So you have to combine. You combine both. Okay. That's the opinion of Sheikh al-Maghidi, and I find it to be very strong. But those are the three opinions as well. And I think, Sister Jessica, you got it. Yeah. Okay. All right. What is meant by combining both? Yeah. What I mean by combining both is, remember that to reach the nisab, just go back to gold and silver, right? What's the silver nisab? Sister Jessica specifically. What's the silver nisab? Oh, it's Sister Jessica to answer. No. It's silver coins. Silver coins. What's the silver nisab and silver coins? 200 silver coins. What is the gold nisab in gold coins? 20 gold coins. If you have either one of those, you hit the nisab. But also, if you have half of each, you hit the nisab. Right? If you have half of each, you hit the nisab. If you have 10 gold coins and 100 silver coins, you also hit the nisab. Exactly. That is what Sheikh Maliki is saying. He's saying, what is the cost now of 10 gold coins? About $350. Sorry. 10 gold coins, about $4,500. What is the cost of 100 silver coins? About $350. Yes, exactly. Then you just add them both, and that is your nisab in the modern age. Okay? Okay. Everyone following so far? Always use the spot price. Yeah, good question. You would use the price at which, best guess is you would use the price on the day that the, let me not speak. Check something. Very good question. Very quickly. الإجزاء مع القراءة. بمدة yeah. So my guess is actually you would use the conversion ratio the day you pay the zakat. Okay, spot price. Yeah, the day you pay the zakat. Even if you're paying late. I'll confirm that, inshallah. Okay. Everyone following so far? So that is the nisab. About $4,800. Okay? Maybe 900, 4,900. Maybe around $5,000. Okay, let's just say. But of course, go and calculate the right. Yes, that is right. I'll confirm it. It's my guess based on what they say about using gold and silver. Okay. So now, how much do you pay? So that's the first line. في فضة قل 200 درهما. Silver at least 200 dirhams. 20 دينارا نصاب في الذهب. Nisab for gold is 20 dinars. Everyone see it in line 186, 187. Then it says وربع العشر فيما وجب. How much you pay is 2.5%. Okay, you pay 2.5%. You pay 2.5%. When do you pay the 2.5%? When you maintain the nisab for the entire year. Exactly. Anyone own their own business here? Or is everyone a salaried worker? Everyone here has a salary, get a job. Thumbs up if you get a salary, if you're working. Talking about if you're working. Abu Bakr owns his own business, mashallah. Okay, most people salaried is expected. But you have to talk about business because Abu Bakr is here, mashallah. And it's okay, I'm also with you. And Muhammad Yassin, mashallah. Okay, not bad. That's good. Good group of us running business, right? Okay. Now, I'll talk about salary though first because that's the most more common use. So salary, when you're taking a salary, by the way, even as a business owner, you'd be taking a salary. Like for myself, this is if you're running like a C corp or corporation, or even a shared partnership. You may not actually take money you may not actually take money from directly. Like you may not have free access to just take any money you want in the business, but you take a salary. Okay, so also important if that's your case, whether you own the business or not. So when you're taking a salary, it's called as a fa'ida, a fa'ida. And Ibn Ashir does not talk about it here, but I'll talk about it. Basically, share my screen again. What you do is you need to have Excel, by the way. Okay, it's the first thing. You need to have Excel. Yes, you need to have Excel. Without Excel, it's very hard. Okay, as for now, trying to encourage one of my fellow asatida, and Sheikh Muhammad Ali, to build out an app. Fortunately, most of the apps today can't trust them. I'll look through some of them. The methodology is not entirely correct according to the Maliki school. Okay, so use Excel. And I'm going to give you the strict mashhur position because you're all here students and trying to aim for a high level. Then I'll talk about the non-mashhur position, the position of ashab. What you're going to do basically is go to your bank account, okay? And there should be a way to export your transactions, both your deposits and your withdrawals. So you're going to come here and deposit that, and there's usually going to be a date, which is going to be your Gregorian date. There's going to be a withdrawals column. There's going to be a deposit column. That's all you need. So let's say this is like 100. There's like 100. This is like 1,000. This is like 10,000. Okay, and this is like June. Let's say yeah, June 15th, 2024, June 16th. Okay, and so on and so forth. Now, what you're going to do is you first have to convert these dates to in order to the lunar dates. As far as I know, Google Sheets doesn't have that. Okay, so I said you have to use Excel. And maybe they added it, or maybe you can use some AI feature. Like, let's even try this actually. Oh, I think you have to pay for it. Yeah, pay for it. But maybe you can use AI to actually convert the dates to their lunar equivalents, the Hijri equivalents, okay? I'm just going to take this, let me see, Hijri, okay? Okay? My goodness, it's very bad. See, I don't think Google Sheets has it at all. In any case, because the reason you want to convert it to Hijri date is because all your zakat needs, when we're saying 1 year has passed, we're talking about 1 year with the lunar year. And something you want to have here as well is the nisab, okay? You just say maintain nisab, right? Or actually, we don't need to do it here. So once you have your deposits, and you can add multiple bank accounts, all right, all in one, and then just go to here in Excel and go sort A to Z, or they'll have a sort or sort by. The reason I'm not showing you Excel is just I ran out of my subscription to Excel. But otherwise, I'd be showing you the whole thing in Excel. Okay, but in any case, you can Sort. Yeah. Right? So you can sort that way or you can sort the other way. What you want to do is you want to sort this way, basically, from the first state to the last. Okay? And then what you're going to do, and by the way, you do this for 1 month at a time. And then what you're going to do is just add these all up. So, of course, I only have 4 days here. Just going to add that up and add this up. Okay? And then I'm going to subtract deposits, or just do this. So this is how much my fa'ida essentially was for this month. Okay? All right. When following. Yes?
You're doing this for each month?
Each month. Yeah. And then over time, you have a calendar like this, Dhul Hijjah. You can make another sheet for this. For every month, you can make a sheet, right? But then you can also make a sheet for final year calculation. Okay? And of course, if you're speedy with Excel, you'll know that. Of course, in Excel, you can have the Hijri months will automatically populate it for you. Maybe I'll post another video later. But you can, of course, just do this and say that's for the Hijjah. And then you can also, maybe in 1 month, actually your withdrawals are much more. So it's something like this, right? Now what you do is you can also subtract, let's say in Muharram now, my withdrawals is negative 10,000. And it's going to be painful. I'll just go all the way here. Say Dhul Hijjah again, right? Here. It'll be here. So this is the current year. So 1446, right? Yeah. So now what you're gonna get here, as you're going month by month, now in Dhul Hijjah 1446, which zakat are you paying? For which month are you actually paying zakat? You're actually paying zakat for Dhul Hijjah 1445. Remember, it has to be maintained for a whole year. So if we go back to Dhul Hijjah 1445, you see, yes, you did get 8,800, but the next month you spent more than 8,800. So you can subtract from there, essentially put this down to 0. And that'll become negative 2,000, right? Now, you actually don't owe the zakat in Dhul Hijjah 1446. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's look at some of the questions. I'll get to the business question, Abu Bakr. But let's first talk about these. It doesn't go by the amount of your salary. It goes by how much is your leftover at the end of the month. Yeah. You're paying zakat for the previous year. Oh, for that month, the previous year. The reason I go by how much is left over at the end of the month is to make it easier for folks. Make it easier for people. Okay?
Check. So let's say you have the nisab in Dhul Hijjah.
Okay.
And it fluctuates. And then in Dhul Qaida you have it again. So in Dhul Hijjah you pay what you have in Dhul Qaida, or
Say that again. What's the question?
let's say Dhul Hijjah 1445.
Yeah.
You meet the nisab.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
it fluctuates up and down some months you have it, some months you don't.
Then it cancels until you maintain the nisab for the whole year. That's why I said
You have to
if in,
maintain it.
yes, yeah.
Understand.
That's the difference.
Sorry.
That's the difference from the Hanafis and also the qawl of Ashab, right? So in Muharram, if I spent $10,000, now I didn't maintain the nisab, right? Even though I hit it in Dhul Hijjah, I didn't maintain it. This goes to 0. This goes to negative 2,000. And now I owe 0 zakat in Dhul Hijjah.
Okay.
You're paying zakat for the previous year. Yeah, paying zakat for the previous year. So as you can see, I'm not going to spend all the time now in this class. You can get, there's some nitty gritty. But I think you get the general idea, right? Now, there's some quick questions I'll just answer because I'm sure people will have them. What about if you have a credit card? Do you count the payments on the credit card? Or the expenses on the credit card? Do you count that? The answer is no, because the credit card is debt. You don't count it until you pay off the credit card. Then that's an expense. Until that expense hits your bank account, that's when you count it. So that's why just look at your bank account statement, okay? You don't have to look at your credit card statement. Debit card is obviously part of your bank account statement, okay? As for stocks, it gets a little complicated, and there are different positions. In my again, my limited knowledge, humble opinion, strongest position is detailed by a Maghribi scholar who said, essentially, when you're owning a stock, you're owning a portion of the company. So depending on how much you own, pay zakat on that amount of assets. So if 0.001% of a $1 billion company, and I'm not talking about the valuation of the company, I'm talking about the amount of assets that company owns. Okay, the amount of sellable assets. We're going to talk about that in the next section, and that's how much you would pay zakat on. So the stocks I would leave aside for now. I am actually writing a guide on how to pay zakat. So if you have any more questions, you can direct them to me, and if it makes sense, I'll include it in the guide. Inshallah, that'll be the first step towards making it easier to pay zakat. Because I understand it's can be very difficult. But again, go back to the hikmah. You're executing the will of Allah. And this is the third pillar after salah. If you're praying your sunnahs, remember our principle in fiqh. The beauty of fiqh is that now you know what is wajib, what is sunnah, what is mustahab. You know the ranks, right? And we know that avoiding the haram is greater than doing the obligatory. And avoiding the makruh is greater than doing the mustahab, sunnah. So it's avoiding haram, then obligatory, then avoiding makruh, then the sunnahs, the mustahabat. So if you're going for Eid prayer, if you're gifting someone, if you're praying sunnah, rather you should be taking the time, and you really have no time. You really have no time. Take the time to go pay your zakat instead of praying sunnah, because that's what Allah wants you to do. Okay? Avoiding the makruh is greater than what? It's greater than the sunnah, mustahab. Okay. Not the fa'i that drops below. Your total wealth drops below the nisab. So maybe you already had $10,000. Maybe you're living a rich banker life or a rich software engineer life. and then you decided, I'm going to go to academia. Academia report. Or as a software, or a lot of this is an example. A lot of students of knowledge, what they'll do is they'll go work high-paying job for a few years, build up a lot of money, like $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, and they'll go be a student of knowledge. As a student of knowledge, you don't have making much money, right? But because they have the nisab, $200,000 sitting in their bank account, then any fa'idah that comes, any fa'idah, even if it's $10, they pay on that. As long as they don't spend those $10. I'm saying $10 is staying with them for the year. They already achieved the nisab, and the nisab stays with them the whole year. And the fa'idah has to stay with them the whole year. If either one is spent, the nisab or the fa'idah, you reset. Does that answer your question? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, for business, right? And I'm showing my notes here. You can see. Let's talk about for business. And I did ask. We had a few people who have their own business, but this business, Abu Bakr, you said it's a service business, right? Purely service. You don't sell goods.
Well, yeah, no.
Muhammad Yasin, do you sell goods or is it service?
Does a software count as a?
What do? You sell the software?
Like implementation and we get a commission from the sales of the software.
Okay, so your case is not like a business. You're the case of actually like a salary. Even though I know not to put your business down, mashallah, amazing. I'd love to hear that you're running a.
That's just like part of it. The other part is the service, like consulting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
You're not standing there and selling bananas or selling goods, like you said.
Right.
You are being paid to do a service. And that falls under the salary camp. Okay. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So, Muhammad Yasin,
Sheikh, I do speech therapy. It's also a service one.
Okay, beautiful. Then you also fall under the salary camp, right? Basically, somebody comes in, you do speech therapy with them, and they pay you like, 100 paisa or whatever, 100 rupees. Sorry, paisa is very little now, right? Nothing. Yeah. So whatever, they pay you 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees. How much they pay for like one session? I'm curious.
500 rupees, something like that.
500 rupees, yeah. So that 500 rupees, it's like the same thing that we did. Those are your deposits, right? You have a bank account or you keep everything in cash?
In cash and also in account.
Okay, if you're keeping in cash for a long time, it's tricky because you have to maintain that. Now, if what you're keeping in cash is you're spending it immediately, right? Let's say they give you 500 rupees, you keep it for a week, and then you go spend it to buy some food. Then it's okay because then it's now spent, right?
Yes, yeah.
If you're keeping your rupees for a whole year in cash, first of all, I'm sorry because I know how the rupee works. It only goes down. But and I would advise you to look into like holding dollars, But and there are ways to do that. I know in India it seems hard, but there are ways to do that. But in any case, yeah. So you guys are all good. I won't spend too much time on the business. And I won't spend too much time on the business. And the one thing in the business is if you've set aside some money specifically for the business, let's say that you said, okay, 10,000 rupees. Yes, and you're like, you know what? These 10,000 rupees are going to be for the business. I'm not going to use it in my day-to-day life. You still have to pay zakat on that 10,000 rupees. Okay? Now, I'll very quickly go through the business. It doesn't look like anyone's doing the business. Okay? And by this, I mean a business where you're buying and selling goods. Even though I mean, think about this, and I'll explain this. You don't have to be a businessman to be doing this. Okay? There's 3 ways you can be buying and selling things. Number 1 is one way that everyone does. Everyone does. You have an object, it gets old, or you don't want it anymore, you're moving, you sell it, right? You have a garage sale, you put up a little sign, say garage sale, come, come, come. In the beginning of your neighborhood. You have all your items out. That dining table from 30 years ago, sitting in the attic. The box of books that no one reads anymore. You have the original iPhone from 2007, right? And you have it in the garage. That's the kind of selling. You need to know the rules of zakat on that. The very basic rule for zakat on that is you just wait 1 year. You wait 1 lunar year after receiving that money, and then you pay the zakat. So it falls under the same kind of bucket as salary. Now, there's another kind of business where you're manufacturing items, putting them in the market, and selling them immediately. Okay? And a lot of people do this. A lot of people you don't need to have a formal company. You run an Etsy store, you run an Amazon store, you run an eBay store, you buy and sell used chairs on Craigslist. These are all businesses. So he says here in line 188, and likewise, if you sell on a loan, for example, if I'm selling chairs, right? And Haytham says, you know what? I want a nice chair. Just moved into New York. And I want a working chair. I said, I got you. This Herman Miller chair, $500. Believe it or not, they're chairs that sell $500. But they're amazing chairs because you could sell them for $500 again even 2 years later. It's like the Toyota of chairs, right? Even better. So you sell. Haytham said, there you go. I know, because it's a very, very Bay Area thing to do. With all these software engineers sitting in their Herman Miller chairs at home, they need them. So Haytham said, you know what? I can't buy that right now, but I buy the chair right now. I'll pay you in 3 months. Okay, that's a business debt. Okay, a business debt from selling the item. I'll buy it from you now. Transaction day is today, but I don't have the money now. Can I pay you in 3 months? Yeah. Okay. So how do you pay the zakat on this? You basically pay every hawl, every Hijri year, from the last time that you paid zakat. What you do is, if you're Haytham, doing this chair business, you look at all the chairs that you have in that back room. I don't know, Haytham, if you're married or not, but your wife is probably very annoyed by you taking up a whole room for just chairs. So all those chairs you have in the back room, you go there, you see how much are all these chairs, plus how much business debt do people owe me. Okay, all of that is equal to $2,000. And so that's what I'm going to pay zakat on, $2,000. And then the next year, maybe you look in the room again, and now you have more chairs. $4,000. Okay, I'm going to pay zakat $4,000. The next year, maybe, Haytham is winding down his business, his chair business, and he only has one chair. He looks in the room. Okay, $500. Okay, I pay zakat on $500. Make sense? That's what he's saying here. Now, the last kind of business that I'll mention, and that is important for everyone, or many more people, and that's investment. That is investment business. If you're holding an investment for the long term, for example, you buy houses such that you can sell them 10 years later. Okay? Or you buy cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, so that you can sell it 10 years later. Now, how do you pay zakat on this? How do you pay zakat on this? What you do is you pay zakat the day you receive the money. Even if it takes 10 years to sell that house, you don't pay zakat for 10 years. After that, even if you have it for sale for 10 years, maybe you bought it, 10 years later you put it for sale, and 10 years later it's sold. In that case, you only pay zakat when you receive the money. Okay? And this is, of course, assuming that time was longer. You held that asset for longer than 1 year. If you held it for shorter than 1 year, for example, you bought Bitcoin today, and then in 6 months, Trump says we're approving Bitcoin. The price goes up to $200,000, and you sell it. You don't pay a zakat immediately. You would wait for 6 more months, Hijri months, and then pay the zakat. Okay? So the rule for long-term investments, there's 3 kinds of buying and selling. One is when you're buying and selling your own items that you use. You didn't buy it to be a merchant or a trader or businessman, or even to run an Etsy store or Amazon store, Craigslist store. You bought it to own and use, like we do most things in life, right? That kind, you just wait 1 year after getting the money. Number 2 is like a shop owner. Okay, they're buying and selling all the time. They put a price up, that person pays that price, and they buy it. They basically have a store where they put the price up. It could be a virtual store, it could be Amazon, right? You put the price for the hijabs you're selling, okay? Maybe you import hijabs from Turkey and you sell it online. You put the price up for the hijab, okay? In Turkey, I bought it for $1, and in America, I'm going to sell it for $75, right? Because it is a brand name hijab. What do they call it? It's a Vela hijab. So we're going to sell it for $75, and back in Turkey, it costed $1. In any case, it's a business, okay? Yeah, great business model, right? So just gonna now that's a store. That's the second case. So every year you have to take stock of your inventory and the money you have. That's in the business specifically. Every Hijri year you pay zakat. And the third kind of business, as we said, is an investment business. You're buying and holding for the long term. You don't just buy the house and put it up for sale. No. You buy the house in this neighborhood because in Newark, you buy the house. Or in Tracy, you buy a house. Because in 10 years, that house is going to be $10 million. And you wait, and then 10 years you sell it. That's investment business. And for that, you pay when you receive the money. If it's more than a year, and if it's less than a year, you pay after a year from the original purchase date. Not from the purchase date, but from the date of the zakat. How can I say? Like you had You had $10,000, or $10,000 not enough to buy a house anywhere. You had $100,000, and you buy a house in America. You can't even buy it. Maybe in Southside Chicago. Okay, buy a house. In 10 years, sorry, that's the $100,000 you paid zakat on in Muharram. Then you know what? Some amazing mayor comes in, cleans up Southside Chicago, and now the house is worth $400,000 just 7 months later. Say Alhamdulillah, هذا من فضل ربي. You get the $400,000. When do you pay the zakat? In Muharram, because that's when you pay the zakat on the 100,000. Okay. So those are the three kinds of business, and that's what Ibn Ashir says here. وَالْعَرْضُ ذُو التَّجْرِ وَدَيْنُ مَنْ أَدَارَ. The first kind of business is man adar or idara. Or sorry, that's the second kind of business. He doesn't mention the first, which is just selling your own items that you use. But dainu man adar, that's like if you had a hijab store on Amazon, right? Idara. قيمتها كالعين. Basically, you pay zakat on the debt, on any business debts people owe you. You pay zakat on any money you have in the business account. You pay zakat on all the hijabs you have in your inventory. ثم ذو احتكار. It's the other kind of business, investment business. زكاة لقبض ثمن أو دين. How do you pay zakat? When you get the money. When you get the money. عينا بشرط الحول للأصلين. And he mentions here as well that any kind of debt that you get, similarly, if Amin gave a Haytham a loan to start up his business, and Haytham pays him back 6 years later, Amin does not pay zakat the loan until he gets it back. Okay, so it's like the last kind of business, the ihtikar, investment business, exactly like that. When you give a loan to a family member or to a close friend or whoever, it is exactly as I mentioned, or it is exactly like a long-term investment business. You pay only zakat when you get the money back. If it's longer than a year, if it's less than a year, it's on the same zakat schedule, original zakat schedule. All right, I know that's a lot, but I hope that explains the beginnings of zakat and money. I don't think every question will be answered, and that you'll have to wait for the guide. But let me look at some of the questions people have here. Feel free to ask your own. Farming and animal husbandry fall under this category. Yes, it does. If this is if you don't already pay zakat on the animals. For example, I'm going to talk about zakat on animals. I'm going to talk about zakat. We talked already about zakat on crops. Let's say you're growing apple trees. If you're growing apple trees, then there's no zakat. So it falls under the business category. If you're growing wheat, you already pay zakat. It doesn't fall under the business category. Okay. But definitely, if you're actually running this business and farming, look, anytime, if you're running a business, please ask more questions or study a little bit higher level text, right? Because I didn't mention all the rules. There's some details. Is the percentage of zakat the same? On all zakat on money, it's 2.5%. Hope that answers the question. Abu Bakr, I mean for chicken and animals. Yeah, I think I answered that, yeah. Any other questions? Well, actually, we'll stop there for today because I have to pray Aisha. It's getting quite late here. أسأل الله أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وأن ينفعنا بما علمنا إنه على ما يشاء قدير بالإجابة. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم
السلام
السلام.
عليكم.
وعليكم السلام. بارك الله فيك.